The 108th edition of the Giro d'Italia got underway today in Albania, the first time this country has ever hosted the Giro d'Italia, and with a testing stage at that, from Durrës, the second biggest city in Albania, to a finish in the capital city Tirana, with a few complications on the way. Tom Pidcock, Egan Bernal, Antonio Tiberi among a number of star riders making their way to Albania, including Wout van Aert, one of the favourites for the stage, along with Paul Magnier and a bunch of other fast men who might fancy their chances. Primož Roglic and Jai Hindley for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe are one of 5 riders in the peloton to have won the Giro d'Italia in past editions. They rolled out of Durrës and out onto the 160-kilometre Stage 1 course. Took a while for the attacks to go, but after 5 kilometres, a breakaway group of 5 riders had formed, including Alessandro Verri, Sylvain Moniquet, Taco van der Hoorn, Alessandro Tonelli and Manuele Tarozzi of VF Group Bardiani. Combination of 3 different teams controlling the breakaway. They went through the first intermediate sprint of the day with Alessandro Tonelli on the front for Polti Visit Malta. And then shortly after that, it was the second intermediate sprint, and this time Manuele Tarozzi of VF Group Bardiani took the maximum amount of points. Onto the big Category 2 climb of Grazien then, and behind in the peloton, Juan Ayuso, the victim of an innocuous-looking crash and chasing back on as they wound their way up the 13-kilometre climb. Holding the breakaway at a tight distance, a couple of kilometres from the top then, it was Alessandro Tonelli who attacked to try and go clear. He was caught though and pegged back. And in the end, Sylvain Moniquet of Cofidis, the Belgian climber, had enough in the locker to win the big climb of the day and to take 18 points and a firm grip on the King of the Mountains competition. On the long descent then, Alessandro Verri of Arkea B&B opened up a gap on the other riders from the original breakaway. But he was eventually joined by them as they lined themselves up on the flatter roads and the approach to the Red Bull Kilometre, an innovation at the Giro d'Italia with 6 bonus seconds, 4 and 2 respectively, for the first 3 riders over the line. And it was Tarozzi who picked up the 6 bonus seconds ahead of Tonelli. Then with 40 kilometres to go, the remainder of the breakaway was swept up as they headed towards the first of 2 ascents of the Category 3 Surel climb, a testing climb of some 7 kilometres. Over the top of that, they'd already thinned the group down as they passed through the finish line and back out onto the circuit one more time for the final ascent of the Surel climb. Lidl Trek, riding for Mads Pedersen, firmly in control of the bunch. Then Israel Premier Tech decided to take it up with Nick Schultz. In the meantime, some of the sprinters, including Caden Groves, was dropped. Wout van Aert looking very vulnerable close to the top, but somehow fighting his way back to regain his position in the bunch. Giulio Ciccone took Mads Pedersen and Matthias Vacek of Lidl Trek over the top of the climb and down into the descent in a much diminished group that was no bigger than about 30-35 riders at this point, including Wout van Aert and Mads Pedersen. Keeping the pace high on the descent, a horrible crash then. A few riders brought down, but none worse than Mikkel Landa of Soudal Quickstep, who suffered horrible injuries and was sadly stretchered away and off the race seeking medical attention.
And Van Aert stuck to the wheel of Mads Pedersen. A brilliant lead out from Matthias Vacek, and now he opens up his sprint. Now Mads Pedersen goes. Van Aert fighting for room on the barriers. Down the middle though, an attack from Antomarche Wanty, but it's Pedersen who's going to hold off Van Aert. Is he? Van Aert runs in mighty close, but Pedersen holds off the challenge of Wout van Aert. Celebrations all round from Lidl Trek.
Made his way to the podium to pull on the Maglia Rosa as winner of Stage 1, ahead of Wout van Aert and Alois Aula in 3rd place. The Maglia Rosa then, defendable probably for Mads Pedersen tomorrow in the individual time trial, and he also leads after one stage the Maglia Ciclamino competition ahead of Wout van Aert. Sylvain Moniquet had enough points to hold off the challenge of Lorenzo Fortunato. He's the King of the Mountains, and Francesco Pussato with his 4th place finish is the first white jersey of this year's Giro.